Are we up? Maybe? Okay. So, this is basically what we're doing is we're just editing this novel that we wrote. And I guess it's kind of not great. So we're doing it on Atticus. Well, it's obviously not great. It's got a lot of problems. Um, so basically, it's a comedy fantasy novel, and it was about this guy who's a fire hybrid. It's kind of like a fire mage. So it's a fire hybrid who's they're afraid of fire. So what they do, that's kind of the premise, at least of the character or whatever. So I basically did this whole thing and released it, and then I was like, oh, this everyone like you think because you're doing something, so you're like, oh, everyone's going to be so into this, they're going to be so pumped. They're not. They hate it. They don't like it. Even like I've done some horrible things trying to get this done. I paid someone to edit it, way too much money, like almost $2,000. I paid for reviews, trying to get a review out of it, and the guy was just like, what a fucking loser, basically. And not funny, stupid idiot, you know. But it was like, oh, but some of the plot is good and some of the twists are good. I'm like, well, that's something. So humor bad, whatever. So I'm like, well, that's pretty good. So I spend like 9 months or something like that, and I'm like, I should probably fix that and just keep going with it. So I did. The thing I decided to do was just like, well, I'll just start editing it, and I'll just edit the beginning, because it was a lot of the biggest problem with the beginning of it was there was a lot of what would you call it? There was a lot of like narrator, right? Like just trying to. It was written like 3 years ago or something like that. So it was during the whole like Disney push and stuff, and so I was like kind of just running like against that. And now it doesn't make any sense, obviously, because it's all that stuff is kind of over, kind of not, whatever. But I was like, it's just being too many stupid things in there. I think like the whole original thing is on Royal Road, in its originality, where it can live forever in shame, and that's fine. So basically, we just start with the prologue here, and then instead of what's funny about the prologue was that the original prologue was from a character named Taves' point of view, and it was just him. He sings a song, and the song's it's not a good song. It's just an offensive song that he sings. It's just to be like, hey, you're in for this kind of ride. But I think it turned people off so fast because it's just it's like the first thing that happens. So it's kind of a huge turn off because you don't build up any like karma. So it had to get changed to something else. So it did get changed to something else, and it got changed to, I made it to the other character's perspective, and it's just him, and it starts off with, I'm such a moron, and that's just kind of, this right here is just kind of how I feel about everything that's happening in this space, and then it just kind of moves on from there. Blah, 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 blah. And basically what happens in this prologue is he's running, like, it's like a Lord of the Rings parody sort of deal, where, Frodo and Bilbo they're both writing the book, The Lord of the Rings. And, and the part that I thought was funny is that when I was trying to get people, like even my family and friends, to read my book, and everyone's like, oh yeah, yeah, and then like, they just don't, and you're like, what the fuck, man? And so he's upset about the same thing. No one will read. He wrote this whole book about this crazy adventure he went on where he saved the world, and he's like, oh, I can't get anyone to read my freaking book though. And he's like, they're all pieces, and he's like, they're all jerks, whatever. And then he's like, no, I guess I'm just bad. And it's like, the funny part about it is that his writing's bad. And so occasionally there'll be parts of his writing in there, and they're just not good. Let's see. Here's one of the spots here. He lowered his arms, unfolding the page as he continued to stare into the embers bouncing off moist logs. I saw him look in his face, He says, I've never fancied myself a skilled writer, nor could I say I've sought tutorship. Admittedly, my hard work is merely self-aggrandizing dribble. The admittance was hurtful, but relieving. That's not what he wrote. Where's the thing that he wrote? Da-da-da. And then it's kind of like, for him, it's like his story is a lie. That's kind of his biggest problem. He's writing this big lie. And then this other character comes in and basically turns his entire world upside down. And it's one of the guys he saved the world with. And he's ready to go back on an adventure, Drobo. And Drobo's just like, I really can't. He does not want to be with this guy because he knows he went crazy after everything happened. And the excuse Drobo uses is that I can't leave all my friends and family behind. This is nuts. And Tavis is like, hey, guess what? Problem solved. I killed them all. Let's go. You have no more excuses now. They're all dead. So we can just take off. Yeah, we're good. And that's kind of Tavis's thing. And then you're just finding out like about these hybrids, whatever, they're like half god, half demon type of weird like things that exist in humans. Where's his writing? And then he, at the end of the chapter, he'll ask Drobo if he wants to read his book, and he's like, no, I'm good. So that's like the new version. I think in the old version, it's Tavis's perspective. Drobo, it's kind of mixed, which isn't good, and it's just bad because it's just Tavis just being a dick immediately. So I guess it's kind of like Save the Cat-ish type of thing where you're just like making the character like look like a jerk, but it's kind of like a deserved jerk. As I wish I could find, I can't just dig through here and find the part where he's writing. Both slips, mass, mother of, yep, stood up in place, I've time, It's funny is he talks very nice, but he can't write anything down properly. Lowered his head, read aloud. Oh, here's his sentence that he writes. He's reading this out of his book. Then all again was therefore once right with the entire world greatly. That's his line. So there's that. I'm all the way up to chapter 18 because my plan was to basically do a one through the book and change all the writing I want to change, and then just check for a few grammar things I learned that I did not know. So, and fix all those and just keep fixing things, and then come back and do a second pass through it again just to make sure that there's as much polish on it as possible, and then do a third through some of the important parts or the newer parts so that it's all corrected. So that's kind of the plan. And it's part of this whole thing is part of a trilogy, so it's just like, but I just need this part to be done so that I can move on from here. Okay. So that's kind of the idea. So, and I'll just go through these really fast because basically there's 43 chapters, including a prologue and epilogue. And the way I view chapters is kind of like, sort of like scenes-ish in a way, but in a novel sense where it's not just one spot. It can start at a spot and then it can move to another spot. And I think that's fine for a chapter. And but it's just I'm just conveying something with each chapter. Like I know what I'm trying to convey, and then it's just a matter of finding the words to convey whatever we're doing. So that's kind of how I view chapters. So in this first chapter here, I want to introduce my main character, Catavis, and it starts off from the perspective of someone else. Like there's a big bad evil guy, he's got a horrible plan, and then Catavis comes in, and he's very easily able to kill this guy who's going to take over the world. Then it turns out that he knows all the henchmen there because he was drinking with them last night. He starts to feel embarrassed. Then they think he's a jerk. He feels more embarrassed. So it just like, for him, this is a very big moment of getting to fight an evil cult, and it's just kind of like the moment's just kind of slipping away from him, and people decide to leave, and other people decide to stay and fight, and he's like, great, we're gonna fight. So they get ready to fight, and he's like, all right, you guys attack me one at a time, two at a time, like whatever. He's setting it up like it's a movie, and then they all just kind of jump him and beat the ever living shit out of him, and he's just on the ground crying, and they just start making fun of him because he's crying, and then he starts actually fighting them, and then it's a big fight, bloodbathy kind of thing, whatever. And then the whole thing where, because he hasn't really been described yet because he's wearing a cloak, and the whole like, and she looked in the mirror, and what she saw was basically, I'm doing that, and the it's funny because the way that he's doing that is he's telling the guy, like, tell me how you would describe me to someone, because you're the only one I'm gonna leave here alive, and I'm doing that so you can spread word about me, because his goal is to be like a famous vigilante, right? So he wants people to know him. So he's like, make sure you get my name right and make sure you describe me properly so people understand. And the guy describes him in this really mean way. And what was his average height, short brown hair, skinny fellow, not much of a jaw or anything. His arms are too long for his torso. His face is kind of asymmetrical. Not much of a looker, this one. Dresses like a horrible actor from a shit play pretending to be a thief. Smells like the poor streets on toss your actual shit out the window day. His eyes are yellow and pink, although that could be because he funnels beer into his ass. Oh, even though he's skinny, he has these chubby fingers and weird gut bulge. Average cock, shaft is abnormally hairy. And then he's like, stop. And he's like, yeah, tell him how. But he does this whole thing. Tell him about how I'm handsome. And he's like, but how would they recognize you if I did that? And then he just starts getting upset. They get into a little scuffle, and Cadavis accidentally stabs him in frustration. And this is the first time he'll try to use his fire powers and then just fail. Like, he just needs to cauterize a wound and he can't do it. So we know that, oh, he's got the powers. He says, I'm a fire hybrid after all. But then he can't use them. And you're just seeing him having a panic attack as his chest is tightening, his breasts are shortening, whatever. He's panicking. Fear, he's afraid to use it. So then the guy dies, and luckily there's someone else alive to spread the word. And then, see. That was kind of a long explanation. I should probably speed this up. Chapter 2 will introduce another character named Darian. Darian is a depressed / suicidal the leader of a group or tribe of nomads that are now like settling down and trying to like create a town, and he's trying to do that because his dad wanted to do that. And there's another guy that very much disagrees with him, and so does half of the tribe disagree with him, and he wants to take over. And Darian has his handler Tunda, who's this really cool woman who's very strong and very outspoken, and so she's helping him, like she's like his go-to guy basically, but she just doesn't take any shit from anybody, especially him. So he goes and has this debate with this guy. He kind of gets his ass handed to him, and then he's kind of sad about it, and then Tunda's like, stop being a bitch and fucking get over it and just fix this. And those are those characters. Then it will go on to chapter 3, where do we meet someone? No, Cadavis goes back home to a place called Drehall. He meets some friends. They're drinking at a pub. He's like, yeah, I'm kind of the man, whatever. They're hanging out. They get into some shenanigans. He runs into his sister-in-law, Thermia, because his brother is the leader of the town. He's the kind of, not necessarily king, but kind of king of the town. He's gonna go on another adventure, just right down the street. There's a really bad guy, and we can go stop him. And he's hot off the pass from his last job where everything went pretty well. And he goes there, and then he gets his ass kicked because the guy he's going to the fight can just make him use his own powers, which he does, and he just kills everybody around him, except for Thermia, who was wandering off doing something. So now everybody's dead. So that's what kind of happens there. Then we go. So that's kind of like, that's basically the story of the whole book is in chapter 4. What would they call that? Like an inciting event. I mean, there's more going on in there, but I'm just trying to do this very quickly. Then you have introduce another character while we're waiting to decide what happens with that, and that's Adverity. And the not cult of women, but the village of women, which is kind of cult-ish. Their whole thing is just there's no men there; they're all gone, and they're celebrating like they're in this moment celebrating the fact that all the men are dead. Right? They had this thing called an Androsidian. Now all the men are dead. They don't tell you what the Androsidian was, but it happened. They're very, very happy for it because the men here were very, very, very cruel. So, like, originally... okay, this is stupid. Originally, they weren't cruel. They were just, like, normal guys. But they were normal in the sense of, like... they were normal in the sense of, like... They didn't... It's just kind of like dismissive and not really paying attention and whatever. And like the problems that they had with them were just kind of like just normal stuff. Like you didn't notice I changed my hair color or whatever. That was originally what I had in there. I thought it was funnier that they got so mad and they decided that these people just had to they had to die just because of just doing normal guy stuff. But I think the problem with that is people see it like, oh, you just hate women. Like it's like you get this bad rap for just like, oh, you just hate women, I guess, and now we're just gonna make fun of them. And it's like, okay, that's not good because you don't want people to think that. And then because every woman that's read this, which is only a few, but the ones that have, they always go, oh, I love Tunda, the strong-willed woman. And then later on they go, no, actually I like Ekio, another strong-willed woman that comes up later on. And so you go, okay, so that's who they identify with is these women, these strong women. And they're two different, very different women. Tunda is a strong-willed family woman, and then Ekio is a warrior type of woman. But I think they end up preferring Ekio in the end, probably because she's maybe a little bit more proactive. But that's just because of who she is as a character. It's just there's just more for her to do. I mean, Tuna very much has her place. Anyway, so this is just them. They're celebrating men and whatever, and they kind of have like this communist, like equality sort of like society. But there's also Adverity is trying to be the leader of it at the same time, which is kind of awkward because how do you have a leader of like a completely equal? Like it's very hard to impossible to make like equality of outcome, equality being the outcome a real thing. So that's kind of what they're struggling with here, and there should be a space there. See, that's why we got to go through it twice. Now, this is Atticus, by the way, and I don't know if I'd recommend Atticus is okay. It kind of lags a little bit even on this machine, which is pretty decent, and it's just a word processor and it's like laggy sometimes, which isn't the biggest deal all the time, but sometimes it'll double write things and like it'll completely mess up your screen real bad. Then you gotta check and see like, oh, what did that just do? Did it just put a random word somewhere? Because that will happen. So that part is annoying. But anyway, that's Atticus. So that's their village. And Adverity is part of an order of women. Like the higher ups are called the matriarchal order. She's in that group. They're going back and forth. And instead of it being that the men were like whatever and they're mad at them, I made it so that they're just, now the joke is that they're very cruel, but some of the women are like gaslit. So they're like, it's not even that big a deal. Like yeah, like like my quiet cage was actually like really nice. It had like nice drapes in it and stuff too. It was actually like very calming to hang out in my quiet cage. When I messed up, it's my fault for messing up, and I did learn a lot sitting in my quiet. That's kind of like the angle I went for, in that, and then Verity's like, all right, stop, like you. And so that's the struggle that she's having now, at least on here. And then it just turns out that because she's so radical, that her friends kind of turn away from her and they talk without her, and they're just, they're just like one-uppy towards her, and she's like, well, I'm gonna get back at them. I'm gonna get back at them. And that's kind of where her story's going. Then let's see. So we're back to Catavis. He wakes up in a dungeon cell with Thermia. Why? Because there's a bunch of dead people. It's just kind of like a silly little scene that we get to have here, as we get to see Catavis kind of be a complete piece of shit and not really care that his friends are dead, that other people are dead. Please leave. I'm doing a thing here. Thank you, miss. Okay, so yeah, so he's kind of having a moment in here, and yeah, so he's kind of being a complete jerk in here, and he's like this uncaring, whatever jerk. He's more concerned about being chilly or potentially being chilly, than he is that his friends are dead and that a lot of other people died. And his brother comes, and originally his brother was going to be this, like, I think that super feminine, like high energy, like gay voice is hilarious, and I was going to give him one, and I would still do it, except for the fact that if I want to do an audiobook, I can't do the voice at all. Like, not in a way that's funny. It just sounds offensive when I do it. It's not like what's his name, that the gay comedian Chris Mate, or I forget the guy's name, but very famous one. His is amazing when he does his friend. I'm like, if I could do that voice, I would definitely do it, but I can't. So I was like, I'll just take it out, whatever. So he just kind of has like kind of little silly-ish words, but that's about it. Other than that, he's just like a normal guy. And so he's trying to argue with him, and he's like, Naya. And basically he's like, you got to stay in the cell, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Whoops, turns out that the guard that's guarding him, his kid was killed in that explosion too, and he didn't know. And so the brother leaves, and Gerald's like, the way that Catavis and Thermia escape is Gerald's like, oh, I'm going to come in there and kill you. Ugh. And they get into a scuffle, and Catavis kind of gets away after making some lewd offers to him. And then so they start running away. They get caught like immediately because Thermia is very loud, and she's trying to grab her cat. So they get caught by the brother, and the brother has like these smoke powers, and he's like the savior of saviors. He was a hero of the last war, like that kind of guy. So yeah, he's kind of a big deal. So he brings, basically he's like, we gotta decide if we're gonna, his decision he's trying to make is, we need to execute you, exile you, or something, or sweep this under the rug. And so that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to convince them not to execute them or anything. And what he ends up doing is he's like, I'm just going above everybody, and I'm going to exile you. So take her and get the hell out of here, and don't come back. And then Catavis is like, well, okay, well, I have a plan. What if I can bring the guy that did this back here and force him to confess? Then we're all off scot-free, because they really like living there. It's their home. So, and the leader, the hybrid, his name's the hybrid, is just like, okay, yeah, if you do that, then guys can come back. That's fine. So they're like, great, we're out of here. Then you get a little jab about his mom to the brother. It's a little sad moment. where we get to see kind of Cadavis get taken down a notch for a moment here. Thermia is very hypersexualized verbally with the hybrid character, and she says goodbye, blah blah blah. They walk into the woods, and this would be the point where you learn that like there's a physical cue for Cadavis not being able to use his powers, and here is a because he's with Thermia in the woods later on, and she's like, make a fire, and he's like, I'd rather not. And then he tells her, I'm afraid of fire, and they just kind of go to bed. So that's that. Oh god, this sucks so much to go through this. They wake up. They're coming up with a plan. They're joking around, having a good time, whatever, blah, blah, blah. They go to a town. They're still joking around. They're like, we're going to get a team together, and we're going to go find this guy and take him down. Just a bunch of... This is like the part of like a movie, basically, where it's just like, all right, we've lost everything, so like let's just like everything will be fine. Like we're still at this hope stage. So they're just having a good time. They're gonna go to a bar. There's lots of banter back and forth. They go to the bar and they meet Ekio, who is the other female protagonist of the story. And Ekio is like this African, based off like a Kenyan warrior type of woman. And that's only because my wife's Kenyan and I'm really attracted to black women. So her specifically. And that's kind of where that started. And also there's a lot of cool lore, and there's the Swahili, and there's a lot of cool things that coincide with that. It kind of makes sense. And she's got her own thing going on. But anyway, she's like a hybrid kind of like our main character, but her power is like wind, right? Sasuke and Naruto. Yeah, not really, but it's sort of that type of thing they have. So they arm wrestle for Cadavis' very special dagger that he has. He loses it on the second bout because she tricks him, basically. And they kind of figure out that they're after the same guy, and they're like, well, let's get some more people. Ooh, we did that one so fast. Then we're back to Darien. He's trying to kill himself again because he got embarrassed in a debate earlier. Blah, blah, blah. Whatever. The Tunda, his handler, is super pissed. That's kind of the whole point of this thing. It's just her being pissed and him just kind of being like, ugh. And this is kind of the chapter where Darien starts to get his shit together a little bit. And he starts kind of caring. Because at a certain point, he's like, whatever, dude. Like, let the other guy win. I don't care. I don't even want this. This is stupid. And the part that she's trying to tell him is that, she's pregnant. And she just wants to raise the baby somewhere. And she's quite certain, and so is Darien, that if they just start roaming around again, that they'll just get killed by other tribes at some point because theirs is so weak right now. And he's like, fuck. Okay. So he's like, all right, you're right. So he kind of goes out there and he starts doing his thing. He starts being a leader while they're waiting for this election to happen. And then Deacon's very much about allowing him to be a leader so that other people will listen to him when he starts doing his shit. So we're back to Cadavis, Ekio, and Thermia, who are all at a tavern, and they're looking for adventures. And this is basically just, this whole chapter is just to get the other two more characters into the group. And it's also a great opportunity to just have jokes in here, where you can have like weird women and men just come in and just have these little scenes together. And it can just be funny, and then you'll have them meet the first guy. There's a guy, Hunter, in Sparklebutt. Hunter's a bounty hunter. He's also a hybrid. And Hunter is the stereotype of a Wild West bounty hunter. That's all he's meant. His name's literally Hunter. Like, it's just a perfect stereotype that you know exactly who he is. And and he's got his own thing going on. And then Sparklebud is like a noble-ish kind of adventurer guy, like an experienced adventurer guy. And he's just like, all right, yeah, well, if I get money, then I'll go. That's, for him, it's just that simple. So they're blah, blah, blah. That's their group. That's what the whole chapter is. It's a lot of just jokes and stuff, mostly. So now the next chapter is just them all talking and trying to figure out their plan of what they're going to do. And Thermia really embarrassing Catavis in front of everybody, which is funny, that she's just doing it accidentally because she's trying to talk him up and she's just messing it up. And then they're all basically like, well, we should get some weapons because Catavis lost his only dagger to Ekio. She's not going to give it back. And Sparklebud says, like, oh, there's a flail at this vault somewhere, and if we get it, like, I will be able to wreck shit with this thing. Because I guess it's a special enchanted flail. And so Hunter's like, alright. Because Hunter really wants this guy, you know. So much so that he's willing to break into someone else's vault and steal, which is obviously breaking the law. And Hunter, the bounty hunter, works directly for the crown. So they're all like, and then this is a good opportunity to be like, everyone just say what your powers do, and then we can kind of figure out a plan, because the guy we're going to fight is he's really smart, he's a genius, and he's probably going to have a lot of strong people with him, so we got to be able to make plans. And also because he can use powers, it's like we should all know what each other's powers and abilities are. And it's just kind of like a nice little, like, fell into your lap kind of thing of, like, no, everybody can describe or show their powers now, which they all do. And Sparklebud claims he's not a hybrid. Thermia is just, as far as we know, just a human. Then, you know, Ekio shows her thing, and Hunter shows his, and Hunter can, when he touches people, he can see bad things they've done. That's basically, you can just kind of like see their pieces of their past, which makes them good for finding bad people, I guess. So they just blah 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 blah. They're just basically going through all of this, yada yada, and then at the end of this chapter, we just make it so Sparklebud is a suspicious character, and that Hunter is like, like giving a side eye towards. I mean, he's already suspicious because his name's Sparklebud. So, but it's kind of that for a reason. Then we're back in Restitude. We're in. They're having they have like a soup line, which is funny to be in a communist society with the soup line. I think it's funny. And there's a certain way to get your soup, in a poised way, in a nice way. So Verity's got this plan that she's not telling us yet. And it's how to get back at all these dumb bitches for snubbing her. And she's about to enact her plan. Someone interrupts her. It's like, I got to make an announcement. Is that cool? And she starts telling her what the announcement is, but she's not listening. She's so hell-bent on revenge. And I got to go see this group and talk to them. And I can't wait to, as soon as I tell the, hey, okay, so is it fine if I make the announcement? And then she's like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, go ahead. Do it. It's fine. No problem. Go ahead. Do it. And the announcement that the woman makes is, I mean, this is the part that kind of, it's interesting. It kind of has to play out through its entirety, and you understand the part that I'm making fun of here. But basically, she's gonna get up there and be like, "Hey," because you see a woman get dragged out of a ceremony for messing up the gestures that they're doing. So she gets dragged out of a ceremony. They're like hissing at her and like clawing at her and stuff when she's leaving. And she's being sent for re-education. Because when you mess up here, you go to re-education. That's the whole point. So that's the woman who's talking to her right now. That was asking her to make an announcement. So what she decides is, because I've been in trouble so much, said, I don't think I know how to exist as a woman. Because otherwise I would have figured it out by now. Therefore, I must be a guy. So I'm a guy now. And And then she thanks Verity for, hey, thanks for giving me the courage to come up here and admit this. You know, it means a lot to me. So that's great, right? And Verity's shocked by this, but everybody else is very, very keen on the idea. They love it. They adore the idea. And then they all start liking Verity. She's like, oh, Verity, you're actually the best. You're the best. You're so great. They're hugging her and they love her and they accept her. They're all gonna they celebrate. They eat a ton of food. Like, that's the whole thing. And they all like, who cares? Like, let's just all eat. Like, they were just like talking shit to each other for a while, but they're like, let's eat, celebrate. This is a great day. Verity's the best. But Verity's pissed the fuck off because the men were extremely cruel, and she doesn't want people acting like men because they're very cruel. So that's kind of her thing. She's not mad that she's transitioning. It's just what she's transitioning to, which is a guy, which those are all evil. You're deciding to be evil. That's crazy. You can't, because what's going to happen now? Like she says at the end here, how could they applaud a man? So that's kind of her arc of the story is going to be her dealing with this, obviously. Kind of setting something in motion and then just being blinded by her own like dumb rage, and then just being like, fuck, now bigger problems here. So now we have some travel stuff here, and the fun part about my favorite part about like reading Lord of the Rings was this: there's so many songs. You see the movies, the extended cuts, there's no songs. No one sings. I don't think anyone sings a single song. Maybe somebody does like part of a verse at some point. Obviously Mary does the one verse when the kid's dying. So I do have like different songs that exist throughout the book that are just like they start off as just kind of for fun, and then it kind of became serious to have them in there. So basically they're in travel mode. They're in full Lord of the Rings traveling mode, traveling through the woods. They're talking, whatever. Cadavis is trying to assert his dominance. Hunter does not give a shit, and Cadavis just doesn't believe him, and he's just being a pest about it. Ekio and Thermia are warming up to each other, and they're talking about themselves together. You see them getting close, and they're like, I got your back, girl. And she's like, I got your back, girl. Damn. Cadavis sings a song for them. It's a like nursery rhyme kind of song. He gets laughed at, but Cadavis really likes the song. So he gets into a little fight or whatever. And then Sparklebutt sings like this rap. Like it's just funny that he just does a rap song. That's not the worst rap I've ever written, but it's not great. But it's just funny that it is a rap. In like Middle Earth type of world that he's just rapping. And this song is just like Cadavis' song is very important for the story. There's multiple verses of it. The Sparklebutt song is just about whatever. It's just I don't really think it means anything. It's just a few kind of lines that I'm like, oh, that's kind of neat, I guess. It's a cool little thing they put in here. It sort of has to do with, I guess it like half has to do with what's happening in the world, and it half doesn't, right? Because there's no, we haven't seen any pimps or anything yet, for instance. But it's a rap song, so yeah, pimps in it. And they're like, oh, that's sick, or whatever. But Sparklebutt gets grabbed up by a beast. They're all running to save him. Cadavis thinks he's going to one-on-one this beast. He gets his ass kicked. Again, this is just a theme with Cadavis. He just keeps getting his ass kicked. He's very sure of himself, but he just keeps getting bonked. And then, yeah, the beast is trying to assault Sparklebutt. Um, Hunter comes up with a plan. Him and Ekio and Thermia enact the plan. They save Sparklebutt. They trap the beast. Hunter fucking beats the shit out of Cadavis for like, you fucking piece of shit. You could have got us all killed, because we need your help when we're doing this stuff. And Cadavis is like, well, dude, whatever. I didn't know. Like, and so they get into a fight. And basically, obviously, Cadavis' whole thing is to be a hero. And Hunter's basically telling him that, like, you think you're a hero, you're not. Kind of thing. It's like, you're just a, what does he call him? The world's full of gold digit people getting other people killed. What does he call them? Good job, team. Good job, team. We did it. Yeah, as Cadavis says after he gets his ass kicked. Could have got us killed. You don't want to be a leader. You want to play a hero. Guess what? You're not. Yeah, not that clever, but it's Hunter. So he's not very clever. Blah, blah, blah. So now they're worried about more monsters. But Cadavis has one little saving grace. He comes up with a plan to basically just like hold Sparklebutt's butt in front of this thing while they use it to travel through the woods. Now that they got it kind of calmed down, then they ride on this thing's back and they just leave the woods on this thing, which is just funny. It kind of reminds me of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids when they're riding the ant. That's kind of what I was thinking of there, because I'm like, oh, they're in the woods now, and I'm like, I don't want them to be in the woods. I don't want to do woods adventures. I want them to go to towns and talk to people, but I just wanted them to have a, like, I don't want to get to a town before they talk to each other and like had a chance. Like, I wanted to feel like, oh, time's passing and they're trying to like figure things out, especially you would think obviously the two women would talk to each other. So that's what that whole scene was for, basically, and for them to kind of like gauge each other. And now we know that Hunter's thinks this way about these people, whatever. Then chapter 12, we're back with Darien, the awesome Darien now, who's getting his shit together. So bandits are coming. Oh, yeah, I missed that part. In the last part, there was scouts that came, and Darien was like, oh, we gotta set up perimeters and shit. We gotta get walls going. And so now they're having a fight, and this is where Darien gets his powers here. Gets his powers in this fight while he's fighting. It basically, Darien has a different power compared to the hybrids. He's just basically got, like, when his adrenaline is going crazy, he become really fast and really strong and really durable. So the more adrenaline that's pumping into his body, the more just everything he is. So in the middle of a fight, he's like kind of awesome. He just hasn't been in fights because he's been so depressed or whatever. Like, he's been so depressed that he's not had the chance to, really get any adrenaline going. So he figures this out and he's like, hell yeah. And everybody else sees him fight and they're like, yo. Because it's a thing that his tribe has, his people, not just his tribe, his people. But so many of them got murdered in the Great War that happened 5 years ago. Or a little bit more than 5 years ago, that there were like almost none left. Darien's dad was one. Deacon's dad was one. Now Darien is one. And he's like sick. So he's fighting. But lo and behold, he immediately meets another one. But this guy's a dick. His name's Tuca. And he used to be like an SMME kind of looking guy. And I was like, I don't know if that's necessary. I think I might have changed it. But basically, he wants to train Darien, but Darien doesn't want to leave. So he basically just threatens Darien. He's like, "You're gonna have to, because I need a tutor. I need to train someone so that my whatever can live on. So he thinks he convinces him. Then Darren gets a bad idea, or not a bad idea, gets a bad feeling, and then turns out that Tuska stole Tunda and said, "I'll meet you in a week at this place, and if you don't come, I'll kill the girl." And Tunda has a husband, and her husband finds out about this, and her husband's like this huge cool guy, but he's pissed, and he's gonna like murder Darian, and Darian's like, "Oh, whatever, well, we'll get her back," and that's kind of the promise he makes. That's kind of all that in a nutshell. So Cadavis arrives at the. I'm up to chapter 18. This is where I'm getting to, so I can stop at this point because then I can just start doing the editing. I'll do it on the next stream. I'm just like a catch up for what's happening. So chapter 13, they arrive at the city they're going to, which is called Pribs. So they get rid of the beast. They're all hanging out. And at some point, Hunter tells them that, look, this is a misogynist town. And what he means by that is, like, I felt bad that there was a female city where we're just kind of being mean to women. And I was like, there should definitely be like a guy's city that's kind of like the same thing. Because one thing that would be fun to make fun of is like the manosphere-ish type of thing. Guys, you know, where there's like alphas, betas, and sigmas or whatever. Like, I think that's hilarious. So there's a whole town, and there was a whole different storyline at one point. Like, all tens of like probably 10 to 20,000 words of a storyline for this, and it was going to be like this big it was this big complicated weird thing, and there was alphas and betas and God, it was so long, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, I hated it so much. It took me so long to figure out how to put it together, and I hated it. I just didn't like it. I'm like, this just doesn't make any damn sense. I'm just trying to get I'm trying to get something to happen here, and I just don't get it. And it was just weird. There was like a whole, you had alphas and betas and originally, sorry, there was alphas and betas. And in this new version, it's the same shitty misogynist town. But now there's just singular leaders, and then there's just like everyone's just a follower. Like, I guess in this sense, everyone's a beta, right? In this place, and then there's just like 4 or 5 like named people, and like that's it. So, and it's basically just a big Ponzi scheme that they just don't realize that they're a part of, but they're just happy to be there for whatever reason. Like, anyone that they talk to is like, they just kind of suck. They're miserable or something, right? Something's wrong with them. And that's just kind of the joke. So they got to get the women to look like men. So Akio is a black woman. She just takes off her wig, and she's just got no hair underneath, so she's fine. Thermia's got to wear a hat, whatever. Then they put on fake beards that Sparklebutt shows them how to do. Lots of humor. And then Hunter's like, he's like the misogynist, blah, blah, blah. Cadavis and Ekio have a little moment here, just a slight little one, and then Thermia's trying to convince her like he's awesome. You should really like I think he likes you. And Ekio's like, yeah, no shit, he likes me. I'm hot as hell. Then Hunter's once again, he's still pissed at Cadavis, and he's getting pissed at him for hitting on Ekio. And Cadavis kind of lashes back at him and be like, you're not the boss, dude. Relax. And let's see. And Hunter says cool things like dames, because he's a hunter. So they're about to get inside, and they're like, okay, here's the plan. We got to get this guy, and this guy. We'll get all these codes, then we can break into the vault with the 3 codes. It's easy. Then we'll have all the cool weapons we need. Isn't that sick? Oh, that's the plan. All right, yeah, okay. So we got to kill a shapeshifter, a wizard, and a brute. So I'm like, all right, now this makes sense because we've got. I'm like, now I can each send them off and go. They can go do a different adventure. Because the whole point was just kind of do like. You're just trying to give the characters things to do so you kind of understand who they are. And you also, like, Ekio is a really important character, and you kind of need to reveal some of her past. And during this arc of the story, it's really important before things happen. And it's also, the other thing is that you're also revealing stuff about Thermia. You want to reveal stuff about Ekio, stuff about Cannabis. Sparklebutt is going to have an unfortunate departure very soon. And also learning more about the character of Cannabis, who we've only seen just completely fuck things up so far. So that's kind of the whole point of the arc. And then they'll walk away with a couple of items that they might need. One of them, not might need, they definitely need. They're important to the story. But this is just a plot device to get those things and to have those moments, basically. So having them be able to go on 3 separate adventures is like, oh, great. Because then it's just easier for me when I'm writing it to be like, all right, I could send them here and then this could happen. But then what if I switch these? And then, and then it's just kind of easy to figure out. So they're going to go to the town. They get set by 2 guards. There's a funny little encounter where they're like, prove your men, basically. And Cadavis is like, well, I can show you my dick. And they're like, oh, we're not gay. Don't do that. Because their whole thing with, if they're misogynists, obviously they're like, well, we're not gay or racist, dude. Like, they're really hip to not being those 2 things. They really don't want to be seen as gay or racist. They're just really not. And they even give this, got you right here. See, not you, sir. We're not racist. Turn around, good sir. Keep it fletched and all that. And then Ekio gets kind of pissed off. But they drag off Sparklebutt because after they get past them, there's a whole thing where, stop, one of your butts is gotta be it's the most perfect butt I've ever seen. It's gotta belong to a woman. And you're thinking, maybe Therm. And then they grab Sparklebutt and then they just drag him off to prison. And they're like, all right, yeah, okay. So Sparklebutt's in prison. Now they gotta head off or whatever. And they start questioning Hunter again about why he's going through with all this. And you hear Hunter's backstory, which is as slightly tragic, whatever. And you find out who his boss is, for sure. Which Thermish already know, Cadavis already know, but they're just buffoons, kind of. Ekio definitely doesn't, but he works for this woman called the Inquisitor, who's this super badass woman, another hybrid that works for the king, like almost directly under the king, and she's kind of like the head of all the law and a lot of the underground dealings, whatever. But it's just a person you just do not mess with. And it's really intriguing to Cadavis for whatever reason. Yeah, your boss is a woman. She must be a badass. Which seems like a progressive thing, but it's just him thinking, wow, if a woman can be the boss, she must be like crazy strong. Like that's kind of how he's thinking it. Inquisitor, and they're all start to become scared by the idea, just by the reputation of this horrifying woman. So then they go to a pub, obviously, and then this is where Cadavis just kind of gets hammered. They're all hanging out. This is just like him. He's warming up to Ekio. Because the hard part about this was like, how do I make like Ekio attracted to him? Because it's kind of important for the end of the story.
So it's kind of like a Dashley trick, right? Because you're just writing like, and then they liked each other. The end. Like, you ever seen like a romantic comedy movie or just like like something that's supposed to be just romantic, and you're like, this doesn't make sense. They look at each other and they're in love. It's so fucking stupid, and it is a dumb plot device to be like, it was love at first sight. Or they hated each other. They were enemies, and then they had to work together. Well, now they kind of like each other. Turns out they both got a brother with Down syndrome. Wow, imagine that. They both had the similar struggles. So no matter what you do, it's going to be corny and suck. That's kind of the point, right? It's going to suck. So all you can do is just try to make it suck as little as possible. So I'm like, all right, what would make her like him, right? Like, he's pretty funny throughout the thing. I'm like, okay, so he's funny, he speaks pretty well, maybe he's pretty kind of charming, whatever. I said, I guess she'd have to impress him somehow. Or he'd have to impress, she'd have to impress him? No, he'd have to impress her somehow. And I said, I guess he could do that. And I was just thinking, like, you know, in real life, kind of the way you do it. It's just like, oh, what if like other women were attracted to him? And I was like, what the? And what if also he was just very selfless towards her? So we just kind of give him these opportunities to be this person around her, and that's just a thing that'll play out throughout the arc. But he's also like fucking it up while he's doing it too, so it's not like solid. Because we're in this pub, and a woman that Cadavis used to know comes up, and she's beautiful, and she's very flirty, and she's just being a pain in the ass because she sees Akio sitting there, and so she's just purposely being a complete bitch to Akio and just like flirting with Cadavis really hard. But Cadavis already knows this woman, and he's like, this is obviously just fake BS. But he's still like, I'll sit here and flirt. Like, finally, someone's being nice to me. A woman's being nice to me. This is great. But Akio starts to see a little bit of jealousy in her body language. So it's just a little bit. She's just got a little tiny bit of jealousy. And she's got this very, very long name that's very difficult to say. But then we shorten it down to L. And in the meanwhile, Thermi and Hunter go to the jail to free Sparklebutt. But they get there, and there's a weird guy there. There's no one here. Thermia is doing her best to act like a guy in public, and kind of doing miserably, but because everyone here is so stupid, they're just kind of like buying it. She keeps saying bro. Yeah, bro. I don't know, bro. She just keeps saying bro. That's all she, like, her, like, talk like a guy is just be like, what's the matter, bro? Oh, something's wrong here. Very wrong, bro. Should we get back to them? She asks through her tears. She's always crying. She's very emotional. Found this outfit. Blah, blah, blah. Sounds good. Or hold on. This is my favorite part of this. Because luckily no one will ever see this video. So this is the fun part about this. The hell was that exactly? Hunter asked. I don't know, bro. Yeah. They're talking to the guy at the front desk, and the front desk guy is suspicious, and he drops a gate down. He's like, I'm done talking to you guys. Drops a gate down, and Hunter's like trying to lift the gate up, and she's like, but it's too heavy to lift. You can't lift it, bro. It's such a stupid line, but it's so funny to me that she's just telling him, just her saying that to him. So stupid. And then Hunter finds that Sparklebutt's dead. He's got a knife through his chest. And he's like, and the guy he was talking to has disappeared. There's a pile of, everyone's dead in the prison, but especially Sparklebutt. So he's like, what the hell is going on? Chapter 115. Oh my god, almost done. Thank God. This is... Thermi and Hunter walked into the pub, and so Thermi and Hunter get to have this little bonding moment, and Hunter's like, ugh, like, alright, like, you know, he's like annoyed at her first, and he's like, it's fine, just be yourself, it's fine. So Hunter and Thermia meet L, and obviously Thermia immediately hates her because she looks at Ekio, and Ekio's giving her the face, and Hunter's like, what the hell is this woman doing here? Well, it turns out she works at the Thieves Guild, and she's here, and she can help them do things. They get to sing another song here because Catavis finds out he's dead. And so him and Thermia sing a song to honor him, which is just for I forget which song it was in Lord of the Rings. I forget who it was for. It was somebody they thought was dead, but no, it was Boromir. He had a very long song. I thought about making this song so long. It would be so funny. In a book, it would not be funny. In a TV show, it would be hilarious if it was just like a 6-minute song that wouldn't stop. And every time you thought it was going to stop, another person just started singing another verse. And it would be so funny. But in a book, it's probably just like, Jesus Christ, get this over with. So anyway, also he was gay. Sparklebutt was said he was gay. So so they have Elle. Elle's like, I can help. I'm about to leave this shithole anyway. I don't give a hell, right? Because she's there on business. That's why she's allowed to be there as a woman. He's like, we're after the armory, and she's like, ooh, yeah, that sounds fun. She's like, yeah, you guys, I'll just do Sparklebutt's part. And so he knew the layout. I know the layout. You guys go here. You guys go there. Get your keys, whatever. We'll all meet up here, and then we'll go to the vault. Easy, right? Because they got to do everything at the same time kind of deal. So, yeah, sick. They all split up. Hunter's with Catavis. Catavis is wasted. Luckily, Hunter's got a potion to sober him up. Catavis ruins one, and then he gets it force-fed another one that has like these side effects. They get into this place. It's just like this little funny like break-in moment, and then they see the big guy, and then they're about to get into a fight, and then the scene ends kind of deal. Sigma? Yeah, they're gonna fight Sigma. Restitude. Blah blah blah. This is just them dealing with more stuff in Restitude. Men started the Great War, blah blah blah. She's still very pissed at men. There's a passball game. This is just like fun. I was just trying to think of like what would like a fully equal sport look like that you could still call a ball sport, I guess, but it has no like effort of any kind whatsoever in it. And the game I came up with was like, what if there's like a pass ball, like you didn't keep score or anything or whatever. So basically they have like this sports games that they watch, or it's just women standing around in a circle, and you just take a ball and pass it to the person. You are handed a ball that you take, because I'm like, well, throwing or running would be out because some people are faster, and some people can't throw. But you can hand something to somebody, especially if you don't have to move. So they're standing in a circle and they pass the ball. They grab it from the left, they hand it to the right, and that's the whole game. And they're very intrigued by it. But now Samartha, the woman who's now a man, is playing, and Edvardi's not understand. Like they've already taken classes on all the new stuff of how to deal with Sam, and they don't know how to deal with him, or they know how to deal with him, but Edvardi doesn't, and they're all like, they're all doing this like, hey, I know this is new, but you really gotta take the classes and get this sorted out or whatever. And then some other woman speaks up of like, this is bullshit, this is fucking stupid, we shouldn't be blah blah blah. And Edvardi is like, oh, let's take a walk. And they're talking about their past and how like really bad stuff that happened to like it used to be that like before it was just like they were just going like yap yap yap. just talking about like these just like non-offenses that their husbands would do. Like I didn't notice I got my hair cut or whatever, and then I just switched it to just that action. Just I was like, well, I'll just make it horrible, whatever, make the men really bad, and then they decide like we're gonna work together and we're gonna fix this. That's what we're gonna do, and that's basically Verity meeting. The whole chapter, the whole point is just that to have a little bit of fun. And for her to meet this lady, the woman that she can work together with, which probably the grand scheme of things, kind of, I don't know, probably not even that important, but I guess it's good that she's there. God, okay, this is the last one I have to do. So, the whatchamacallit, Thermia and Ekio approach our next location. So basically, they get sent to a wizard. They thought they were getting sent to a shapeshifter, but they get sent to a wizard anyway. And they're walking through the town. They're both trying to get noticed. And like I said, everyone's just like a dumb. The guy's just being silly in here, and kind of dumb is kind of fun. Just having them continue. But and they're talking shit about Elle, obviously the woman that was at the bar, which is funny. And they go meet the wizard, and the wizard's like, but he's just like this. I think of like Merlin from Sword and Stone kind of guy, and he's just like silly, whatever. He's just doing research, whatever. He's like, oh, you guys, here, you're great. You can help me with my research. We're just trying to organize all of this stuff and get everything together. We're trying to figure out how to make what is it? God, I forget the potion. Something about being able to stay awake or something like that. Ten voice, scratch, can't lose. Whatever. They're trying to make some kind of potion. Reporting for duty. Yeah, he hugs them. So it's like they're trying to make a potion. He brings them to a room. There's stacks of books everywhere. Nothing's organized because obviously it's just all guys. So that's kind of the joke. And he's like, okay, this section's over there, that section's over there. If you need me, I'm upstairs, whatever, I'm out of here. Let me know when you're done. I don't care how long it takes. So he takes off, and Thermia, the fun thing about Thermia, she's like, well, let's get to work. And Ekio slaps the book out of her hand. She's like, no, we're here to kick his ass. Like, what are you doing? And yeah, right. So they get to leave the room, and it turns out that they're in a nasty little trap. And this was the part that I was like, okay, now we get to see their past, because that's kind of the whole point of what's happening here. Is like, yes, they're after the keys, but at the same time, we'll get like a nice little snippet of their past. So Ekio is back from where she comes from, because she's not from where they are. She's like across the sea, right? She's got a whole backstory that's it doesn't serve a purpose in this book to exist, besides just like mentions of it. But there's a larger version of it that I want to get into and then the next one and the one after that. But basically, there's a war happening, and she can't interact with the war. She's just watching things happen, and she's like not there fighting. And so she runs back to, oh shit, my family's at my house. Runs back to her house, and then she sees herself laying in a bed, and then she realizes that she's stuck in an old memory that she shouldn't be seeing. This whole I'm sorry, and it's just like basically what this spell does is just kind of traps you in the worst day of your life forever. That's what the spell's for. Like, the wizard's a wizard. He knew he was just fucking with them, and he was just gonna get them in a trap or whatever, and then just keep, because there's a nasty little trick they play on women in this town. It's a very nasty trick. So, and Thermia's day, she's back home and da da da. In her worst days, realizing that her before she was given away for marriage, which she discussed with Ekio, to Cadavis's brother, who she loves, but still she was with somebody before all this was kind of set in place. And this guy, they were like, we should just like run away. And she gets this note or whatever, and basically just this guy, he's scared of something bad happening, and this note it says that he kills himself so she doesn't do something stupid. And I hope you find your palace of light. Poof. Ah. And she starts getting sad. And then this is why these two women kick ass so much, is that. And so she remembers. The first person she calls for is Ekio, right? Because now that's her emotional friend. And then it's back to Ekio in her dream, and they can kind of hear each other. They're like, "What the hell?" And they find that they can hear each other through the mirrors. And they're able to escape, and because she tells them in the next chapter that they're in, it probably should be here, because you're wondering like, how did they get out? And because the guy set the trap, but the traps is meant for men, like that are like messing with him, because he's all men he lives around. He's like, well, this is a good trap for guys. And he's like, wait a minute, how the heck did you escape? And she's like, we did the one thing a man couldn't do. And he's like, and what's that? And he's like, ask for help. I thought it was so funny. It just cute little Thermian just sitting there pointing at him, ask for help. So they get out and they're like, oh my god, and they're both like mortified. And Aki is just now going from like sad, depressed to just completely pissed off. And then she just lets the fuck loose in this room. And I should probably put some more description here. I added more when I went through this last pass, but I should probably put more, just describing like the power of this that she has and how strong it is. It's really fucking strong, and she kind of just crumbles this building from inside with just her wind, just by whooshing it around, as it just turns the entire fucking building that they're in into rubble, basically, and it just kind of all falls to the ground. And then that catches me up to where I was going to continue, but this number said 0 the whole time over here, so there's no reason to really continue. So I'll just come back and do it tomorrow, I guess, and then just fix all this interaction between Cadavis and Hunter. Yeah, but that was fun. I had a lot of fun just saying it quickly out loud.